good. Excellent. So we started recording, Raquel. So it's great to have this chance to talk to you. It's very exciting speaking to somebody, in such a distant part of the world. So I was just going to ask you if you could just say who you are and where you work.
Yeah, I'm Raquel Diniz. I'm from Brazil, and I live in the city of Natal. That's the capital of Rio Grande do Norte. And I'm a professor at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte here. And I'm an environmental psychology teacher and investigator.
Okay. Wow. Those are some fantastic titles. And I think we're talking to the right person. So this sounds very good. And I guess I just wanted to ask you to just tell us a bit about your work, the kind of things that you get involved in, because that would be, I think loads of people would like to hear about that.
Great. Thank you for the invitation, Carl. It's really great to be here and to be part of this project. I think that's really great to talk with people from different parts of the world, Since my English is not so good, I hope to be clear to everybody. And I'm going to talk about my work with environmental psychology in the context of Global South. I'm talking about the poorest part of Latin America, or in America. We are in Latin America, and in the poorest part of Brazil. That's northeast. So our work here about this environmental topics and specifically about climate change really attached to our social commitment. So we develop our activities with people in situation of vulnerability, with poor people, and we are always focusing in human rights and social justice, environmental justice, and our work are developed together with with students from our university, and that's the kind of partnership that we established with this formation of environmental psychologists, our biggest psychologists, and we bring this idea of that's important to think about people in a place-based way. So the topic of environmental crisis and the topic of climate change, they appear in a very amplified way, right? So I'm going to share with you a presentation with some images and pictures that may help you to understand a little bit of what I'm trying to say. The words are in Portuguese, but I'm going to explain to you what are in the images. So when we think about climate change here in Brazil, and Latin America, or maybe in Global South, we can think about a topic that's really hard to access. It's really hard to make it easier to common language with common people to explain them how the climate change affects their lives. So we choose with these groups that we work to talk about environment in a more biggest way and their environment. So we go through this way, but we have a lot of intervention of ONGs and I have a partner here in our university that works directly with the idea of climate change, but this kind of approach goes directly with people with university formation or that access much of sophisticated information, that understand the political issue that involves the topic. And that's not the way that the measure of population access this discussion, these debates. People
Sorry,
are
Raquel,
really...
Yeah, and can I
Oh,
ask? This is really interesting. And you're describing two different populations. Is this correct?
yes.
So like demographic groups. So people who are very informed, who are university, like people attending university, for instance, or students, and then people who live in completely different environments and who have much less information about climate change specifically. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Perfect. It's totally perfect. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
And
And can I
this,
just say as well, because just technically, I think is your when you're sharing your screen, does the slide cover your whole screen? Because I can see myself twice on the
oh, yeah, let me try again. Here, okay, now I'm going to do it right. Thank you, Carl.
That's all right. I just want people to see your slide. Oh, perfect. Yeah, yeah, that's lovely.
Now, yeah,
Thank you.
great. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry. Yes, and we are talking about a very important aspect in our country and in our region, in our continent. That's the class thing.
Mhm.
We have different this differences between this group because it has to do with our history of colonization, exploitation. So our population are majority. We have only 10% or 18% of our population access university.
Mm,
You know, so the most of our people doesn't access this kind of discussion in terms of in technical terms. So environmental education here, and to talk about this kind of topic like climate change or environmental crisis, is really hard to do it with the common people. That's why I'm going to talk with you with this other group. How can we access this group? What kind of information can we exchange with them that make them think about the impacts of the climate change in their lives?
mm.
So we could talk about the other group, but I think that's more similar to other contexts that you are going to hear from people in other interviews. I think I may be wrong, but in my opinion.
Well, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good thinking, Raquel. I mean, whichever makes most sense to you in hearing about your work. That's what I would say. Because although there are going to be a few conversations with different people. I think the thing that I'm particularly interested in is hearing about you and what your special interests are. So however you want to present this is good with us.
Great, Carl. I'm saying this because even here in Brazil, we out of university, out of our centers of knowledge,
Mm,
um, we are even here in our circle of investigators and psychologists, we don't talk about these people in a more different context of who are inside of the university. You know, we are talking about a wall that there are between the university and the common people. We
mm,
have this kind of relation that are not so connected.
mm,
So I think that we are trying to make this kind of extension,
mm,
like Paulo Freire suggested us. I think
mm,
that people who work with community psychology probably know him.
mm,
And Paulo Freire was a very brilliant intellectual here, Brazilian intellectual, but he worked in different parts of the world. And the main idea of Paulo Freire is that we need to access people by the language and by their own realities. Because if we bring some external terms or external concepts, people it will be harder to talk with them and to make sense to them what we are saying. So if we go to them and pay attention to their own lives and what they are doing and they are day by day, it will be easier to talk with them and to make them understand what we are trying to share.
Mm.
So that's the kind of that's the kind of situation that we have here in these pictures, that these are different contexts that we work at. So you have here this picture of a school, you are seeing child here, and this is a typical school that we have here in Northeast and in other parts of Brazil, public schools that where our the majority of childs in Brazil studies. And we have this kind of context that are the uh, habitation, social habitation, you know. So are buildings that are really far from the center of the city, and people are really distant from where the life happen event mostly. You see here there are a lot of space.
Yeah.
Of, it means that they are really far from the center of the city. So, and very bad communicated by bus, by other main of transportation or public transportation. So this is what Herminia Maricato, that's a Brazilian urbanist, say that they are the exilated exilio. They are almost foreigners in their own cities. They are really far from the life. So we are talking about, Carl, you can interrupt myself. Are you going
Thank you.
to
Do
ask
you
me?
know, that is so interesting. And I was going to ask, this may be a strange question, but the lady in the, I think it's a lady in the red
Yes.
shirt. What does that say on the back of her shirt there?
Oh, perfect. Great to your question. It's very important to situate this image in the fight for dignity in living, in housing, dignity housing. I don't know how to
Okay, yeah,
translate it,
yeah.
but I think you can understand. But
Yeah.
it's the main point here is the fight. The word fight, luta in Portuguese. This is an audience, a public audience, where these people that doesn't have house are going to reclaim, to put their point of view about the discussion that's being made about how to give house to the people. So we have a lot of social movements here in Brazil that fight for living, for housing. So this is an example of this kind of intervention of these people. So it's great to talk about this, Carl. Thank you for asking, because it's hard to talk with somebody about climate change if this person doesn't have a house.
Yeah.
That's exactly the point that I'm trying to expose here. It's hard to talk with people about climate change when they have this kind of environment to learning, that's the school, or with the when they are getting staying an hour in a bus from the post where they work. So that's the main I think challenge to us, to make this sense, to make sense to these people about this topic. So we are using environmental psychology to talk about this, and well, all this in Portuguese, but here we have some dialogue, some disciplines and some uh, knowledge that we use to inform our work, that are political psychology, collective health, the critical urbanism, community psychology, environmental rights, popular education, and social and public politicals, that are topics and knowledge that we use to make our work. So I'm going to share you with a map. We are here in this little red spot in the map of Brazil. We are here in this point, and we are in the corner of
Yeah.
this red point. It's a very beautiful city. As you see, Natal is one of the most tourist cities in Brazil, in the northeast of Brazil, and we are in the coast. We have these beautiful beaches, and well, but this this is the Atlantic. We are talking about this kind of population that's in the very far from the beach. We are talking about this community, these communities that are the poorest in our city.
So this is the zone here with the red circle around it. Is it Guarapes? Is it say or?
Yes, yes, perfect. Almost very well pronounced in Portuguese.
Thank you.
Yes, Guarapes is the where we develop our actions more directly.
Okay.
But all these closest are the same kind of population. And here we have in this yellow, as you see, are the richest neighborhoods in the city. And here also in the orange region, also poor region in our city. So this picture above, as you see, are very domestic picture, are very, how can I say, took it from a person who lives there. So it's not so beautiful as the other ones, because these other ones are for the postal cards.
Yeah.
So here we have these pictures from a work that we developed in a social housing project. We are, as you see, all these people here, they fight for this house, for these buildings where they could live. So our job here was to work with the kids, and we used movies and some animation to talk about their living, about their locally, their city. And we also developed some intervention with the professionals that are not psychologists, but we have psychologists here too, but that are people who are working with this population. And we have this challenge because they have very different languages. So this kind of challenge, it's always part of our work. How can we say in a more simple way, but not or not only simple, but using their own language, their own terms. So with the kids, we use drawings, and we have these movie sessions, and we made some toys with different materials, and we work with the professionals. And these are some material that we produce with our students about the mapping the regions of the neighborhood, who are the main influences of this community. And we establish a relation with these representations of the neighborhoods of their communities, to make this bridge with the community. So here we have these different interventions. We use this manufacture and artisanal work with hands, and we use this kind of opportunities to talk with people. So while we are making some manual work, handing work, we are talking about some problems of the community. We are talking about some problems of that affect their lives, and we are talking about how the weather changed a lot in this few years, how the sea is affecting their houses, and we are using this opportunity to talk about the topics that we believe that has to do with the climate change. Here in Natal we have this the main point is the sea, you know, the beaches. They are invading or going through, going closest to the houses, you
Right.
know, and the fishing is also affected. So this is the topics that we work with.
So
Sorry,
there are. So you were. I think then, as I'm listening, that there's some quite complicated things going on. So there's like the understanding that you're developing brings together a lot of different disciplines in
Yes.
kind of social thought, like you say, political psychology, for instance. So it's kind of, some of the work is quite transdisciplinary by the sound of it, like moves between different disciplines. And then also your work with local people involves some of the practical issues. So if you don't have good housing, it's difficult to talk about climate change. And then you're setting up kind of experiences like where you're doing practical artisanal work together. And during those conversations, you start to introduce like topics of conversation which are perhaps more meaningful to people, like, you know, for instance, the way that the sand on the beach is coming into their houses, for instance, and the way that fishing is being affected. Is that right? Is that kind of how things are developing in this talk?
Well, listen, I think I made myself comprehensive.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
That's perfect. You just summarize what I said. It's exactly this.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and it's that the kinds of work that we do. You see some example here. This is what this kind of work was happening before the pandemic, but during the pandemic we tried to do something, as you see here. In a storytelling. And it's about Africa. It's about because if you see this, it's a black child, and we are trying to work with memory and this diasporic about Africa, bringing this African identity to talk about how to care about environment, how these people think about environment, and what could we learn from them. So I think that's it. I'm going to interrupt these are the people who we work with whom we work. Our students, they are really, really participative, really well engaged, and our intention is that I'm going to open my camera. Yes. And the idea is that we bring these topics to the formations, to the to do with psychologists, environmental implicated, and I think that it works with all of the context they are going to work. So in a school, in hospitals, in I don't know, any place in I don't know, where they choose to work in in clinic. They are going to use this sensibility to talk with people and to work with these topics.
And that's very, so I was going to say that's very interesting. So do you think that this work, I suppose I'm wondering what effect this kind of work has on the barrier that you talked about between the university population and like people who live in, say, the outer parts of the city? does this work have an effect on that separation?
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't think so, because we still have this separation in our relations, in a common life. We have this class, race, and gender, and all these inequalities. They are really strong in our relations, social relations here in in our country. So
Yeah.
I think that they are different worlds, different
Yeah,
Brazils.
yeah.
It's a really hard work to do, to put this all together, to make people understand that in this richest part of the country, that they what they are doing and what their lives influence and have impact to this other part of the country or the part of the population, because they are the most affected by the climate change and by the environmental problems. The poorest people, the poor population, because they don't have access, they don't have services that work very well, and of health services or education services. So they are a little bit far from what they could do to change their own situation. So we need to engage this other part of the population to think about how to protect this other part of the population.
Oh, I see. So yeah, so there's kind of like you've described, haven't you, how you've reached out to one group of people and the barriers and the work that's required to overcome them. And then also there's another group of people who also struggle to understand the impact of their behavior on those other people.
Yes.
Can I ask, Raquel, what is the impact on, say, the students when they do this work? How do they experience it?
Well, I have very, very brilliant students, and they are really, because we are trying to work with an ethical political formation. So it's not only about learning techniques or learning theory. We are talking about sensibility. We are talking about political engagement. So I think that these are the main points of this kind of work, because the theory and the techniques they will use, it's an instrument to intervene, but how they are going to do it, because you can use a theory or a technique to make a very how can I say, not so committed with the situation of these people. So we are trying to inform them and to form them to act, thinking about what's important to their community, to that community, what that people needs. So if they need this kind of intervention, okay, I have this, I learned how to do it, and I can do it, but with them, not for them or by them. So I think that's we are getting this kind of for accessibility formation.
Yeah. So because you could just do an intervention but not believe in it, not expect it to make a difference, and not commit to it. And you're describing something quite different.
Yes, that's the idea.
Well, Raquel, thank you. Go on.
No, just to say that we are really far from the idea of a neutral science. We are working with a really engaged and popular and very committed science, social commitment of the science. So we believe that science, psychology, or any other science should work for people, and thinking about the dignity of their lives. So I think that's the main point.
Well, yeah, thank you, because that really highlights, doesn't it, a really powerful concept. So for a lot of people, psychology is seen as some kind of well, seen as science in parallel to the natural sciences, and what you're describing is something that doesn't distance itself from human experience, that says actually the human experience is what we're here for, is what we're dealing with. Yeah, no, thank you. Well, that's such a great point to make, and thank you so much. That's been fascinating. I'm gonna press the. Was there anything else you want to say, Raquel, before I press the stop recording button, or is that okay?
Well, I think I said what I was planning to say. I don't know if I made myself so much clear, but you helped a lot making this summary. But I'm going to thank you again, and I hope this project to be very, very successful.
Thank you
and
very
I'm
much.
here to talk other times.
Yeah, that would be lovely. But thank you so much for your help this afternoon. I really appreciated it. So thank you.